Well, there it is, New York Stock Exchange. We're 4 o'clock, folks. 4 o'clock in 5 seconds, 7 seconds, 8. And there is the New York Stock Exchange. Fairly timid day on the floor today. 154 points down in the Dow. S&P just down 9. That's a tiny move. And NASDAQ, a minuscule move, less than 0.5% down, 8 points. Well, interesting, though, oil still hovering around $61 a barrel. And crypto was up earlier, up over $86,000 per Bitcoin, and now it's hovering around $84,000 per Bitcoin. All right, make sure they're there. Yeah, so tiny, tiny moves. People are digesting what the tariffs mean, where the tariffs are going, who's getting the tariff. You got a tariff? I got a tariff. You're going to get a tariff. I don't want a tariff. You get a tariff. I need a tariff. No tariffs for you. Tariffs for you. Trying to figure it all out. That's why the market gets jittery. But the good news is the VIX, which we've been talking about, the volatility index, creeping down, which means a little bit more settling of the markets. All right, folks, welcome back. Market has just closed, and here's what went on today. I just told you about that. But we're coming in hot. Look, listen, let's do this. Last night I was invited on Bill O'Reilly. Hey, Parker, what's Bill O'Reilly's show called?
No Spin.
The No Spin
News.
News. It's No Spin News. I was on there last night, and we had this debate about tariffs, and Bill is firmly behind the president on tariffs and Lutnick on tariffs, and I got to be honest with you, I will only give you my straight opinion. I've got 20 years on Wall Street plus. I trade actively stocks. I've traded gold. I've traded oil. I trade crude oil, agricultural commodities. I trade everything. I trade active stocks, ETFs, everything, Bitcoin. I've been doing this for 30 years. I'm against tariffs. I don't like the idea of government getting involved in our markets whatsoever, any which way. So Bill and I had a fairly robust debate, push back a little bit, say, here's a piece of it, you decide.
Down there in Florida, you all right?
We miss you down here, Bill. It's always good to have you in the studio walking around.
You look a little like Maynard G. Krebs with the goatee, but that's all right. It's okay.
By the way, that compliment was amazing, especially coming from the guy who I did sit in for over 250 times over an 11-year period. So I must have been, ratings went down, but they must not have gone down that much, Mr. Bill O'Reilly.
You know, when Juan Williams sat in for me, they really went down. But when you went, you weren't that bad.
Well, that was a little bit of a yuck prior to the actual tariff debate, which happened here.
I know you've had some discussions on your programs, and you had some criticism about the tariffs. Where do you think they are now?
So I stand firm, Bill. I'm a free market, true, like complete free market tier. I just believe that government shouldn't get their hands in any form of the markets. Now, again, let me qualify that with I am really, really rooting for the Trump tariffs to work. I hope they do. I'm hearing they are. As Kevin Hassert said, it's going to be astounding when they start telling us what they've gotten or what they've received. My only issue is I just don't like government interfering in markets. And when I mean government, I mean our government also. But if it's going to be used, I think they lost the messaging, Bill. Let me reframe this. It came out where we're going to raise tariffs to the rest of the world to the level that they're charging us. And when they realize they can't do it anymore, their tariffs will come down and our tariffs will come down as well. At some point, it turned to, well, they're all begging to, kind of kiss the ring and come make a deal with us, which was the wrong message for me as a free marketeer. He got back on message recently over the weekend and said, when they lower them, we'll lower them. And that's what I hope for. I hope for a global no tariff or a global 10% across. And I stand by that. I stand by that. I'm free market all the way. And if we somehow get China to play ball and the rest of the world to play ball, lower their tariffs, we lower our tariffs, that becomes a more free market, if that's what it was. It's just that, for a while they got off message talking about the rest of the world owes us something, which no one owes anyone anything. It's a global marketplace. That's all. They're going to get what they can get, just like a retailer would get what they can get for their products in any given retail operation, a store, a mall, online, wherever you get what you can get, what the market will bear. And when government gets involved, it tends to upset that supply demand. So prices meet at where supply crosses demand. I just like it when you change demand because of tariffs, that you change the actual value of the pricing of the product. And we're going to drive prices up if we add tariffs. Anyway, moving on to some of today's news. This guy, Kilmar Abrejo Garcia. The mainstream media's doing everything they can to turn that guy. And in fact, they called him the Maryland guy. They called this guy the Maryland guy, an MS-13 guy who is basically a domestic terrorist deported by Trump. Just so there's no confusion here, the man's a member of MS-13. As a matter of fact, listen to Secretary Kristi Noem break down exactly why this man is no longer allowed to be here in the U.S.
This was just one of those examples of an individual that, was an MS-13 gang member, had multiple charges and encounters with the individuals here. Trafficking in his background, was found with other MS-13 gang members. Very dangerous person. And what the liberal left and the fake news are doing to turn him into a media darling is sickening.
Secretary Noem just said the entire Democrat Party is trying to make Trump the villain, as usual, calling him the Maryland guy. He's an illegal, and he's done bad stuff here. As usual, they're trying to make him the bad guy, Trump, for sending this dangerous dude, bad hombre, home. Senator Chris Van Hollen is one of those ridiculous Democrats, by the way, from Maryland. And he's threatening to travel to El Salvador to personally fight for the man's apparent right. MS-13 member here illegally may have committed crimes. His right to be here in America. Van Hollen, you nut. Here, watch.
I saw the comments of President Bukele, and I look forward to meeting with him. I've requested to meet with him. I reached out to the ambassador here to ask to meet while he's here. But I've also made clear if we can't meet here, I do intend to go to El Salvador to discuss the release of this individual who is illegally detained. A Maryland man who's the father of 3 in a notorious prison in El Salvador. And I believe the president of El Salvador will recognize why it's important to allow him to return to the United States of America.
Why? Why, Chris? Why? So you bring him back. I don't know. Maybe he gets off and kills another one of your constituents or rapes one of your constituents' daughters. You okay with that, Van Hollen, you Democrat, liberal, lunatic moron? Well, he's not alone. Timu Obama, also known as Hakeem Jeffries, joined the fight and made some empty threats directed at Trump and the administration. Watch.
To intensify the pressure on the Trump administration to comply with the Supreme Court's directive, and the Supreme Court and/or the federal district court actually needs to enforce its order. And the vehicles that are available for the court to do that relate to contempt. And that contempt can be directed at a variety of different members of the Trump administration, including but not limited to the Secretary of State and/or his or her designees, and the Secretary of Homeland Security and/or his or her designees for the court to determine.
Yes, let's definitely bring this lunatic killer back to America. And I'm not going to say he's a killer. I'll say he's alleged to have committed crimes here. Democrats making this their obsession of the week. In fact, here, remember Keith Olbermann? He was a sports guy for a while, and then he decided politics, and he got thrown out of politics. I don't know. I think he's really lost his mind. Keith Olbermann, useless take, number 1.
On the all-new Monday Countdown podcast, Kristi Noem, the head of the Department of Homeland Security, and Tom Homan, the head of ICE, must be arrested immediately for contempt of court. They're defying court orders to return Mr. Abrego Garcia from captivity and torture in El Salvador. And they and Trump are on the verge of being in contempt of court of the Supreme Court, as Trump begins to indicate he will not abide by its rulings about returning Abrego to this country.
Hey, Keith Olbermann, you horse's ass. Do you understand that he's a citizen of El Salvador, not the United States? He has no rights here. He has no right to due process here. You break the law here. You're a citizen of another country. We don't owe you squat, Olbermann. The Democrats like to use big, scary phrases like contempt of court. Yet, if history tells us anything, this is nothing more than what they're used to, fear-mongering by the left wing. They care so much about placing blame, yet not a single member of this absolutely deranged party has mentioned the fact that this deported Maryland illegal migrant is a violent gang member with ties to human trafficking. Why do you think that is? I guess it's because that would kind of ruin the narrative for him. By the way, like I said, if Trump's for it, they're going to be against it. Even when it's a horrendous criminal who's done bad things in the United States and not even a citizen, when we deport him, they want him back just because Trump wants to push him out. They want him back. They would hate oxygen if Trump said, I love this big, beautiful American oxygen. Dana Bash over at CNN did her very best job to let America know that CNN is on the people's side. They don't hate us, like Trump said. Well, they don't hate America either. Well, listen.
Where we have heard a lot of bits of information, a lot of news nuggets that we want to definitely focus on, a lot of...
Oh, we don't hate America. We're CNN. We just hate America. The latest conspiracy theory for MSNBC just dropped. Apparently, Tulsi Gabbard, former Democrat, by the way, well, now she's a Russian agent.
Fantastic. I really hope that alternate universe me is really enjoying like a life that is nicer than where we are right now in this hellhole. Why are we shocked? She's, we learned that she was a Russian agent. They celebrated her, so why do we think that...
We learned that she was a Russian agent?
Yes, we did.
Where did we learn that?
From Russia. We had it mentioned by Hillary Clinton during her debate. Like, should we look into Tulsi Gabbard?
Unproven.
Unproven. Okay.
Unproven.
Amen. Okay.
Allegation. No, I'm serious.
Sure, okay.
Yeah. I mean, agent is a very strong word of a foreign state.
So Tulsi Gabbard used to be a Democrat. She ran for president as a Democrat. I don't hear any of them complaining about her relationship with Russia when she ran for president as a Democrat. You liberal hypocrite SOBs. On a lighter note, WNBA star, and I use that term loosely because Angel Reese can't hit a layup. She's missed 3 layups in a row that we've watched. Well, he's running her mouth again. The same girl who can't sink a layup thinks that she should be making as much money as, get this, LeBron James, the top scorer in NBA history. Let me remind you that the WNBA is a paper shredder when it comes to Benjamins, when it comes to paper money. And outside of grabbing her own rebounds after missing layup after layup, Reese doesn't offer a darn thing on the court. Listen to her explanation why she should get as much money as LeBron.
See, for women's sports.
Us getting paid our worth.
Period.
Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Because you're doing exactly what LeBron is doing, so what's going on?
Sis, I don't they ain't got the money for us just yet, but it's coming. It's coming.
Is it? I don't understand
it's
it.
A lot. It's a lot that goes into it. But it's coming. Trust me, it's coming.
Oh, it's coming. It's coming. It's coming. What's coming, Angel? You're going to make $20, $30 million a year? I don't think so. Sorry, I don't think so. Got to hit layups first. All right, before we head to break, I wanted to remind you about my podcast and the YouTube page, which are both updated daily. Let you hear this show and, by the way, tons of other fresh and different new content anywhere, anytime. Be sure to subscribe now so you don't miss it. Well, all right, voice of God. MD's not here. He was here all day. He was really early and he took off. But Colin's here. Colin, would you say this was a hawk cam? Hawk cam. It's not like an eagle. Those are hawks. Hawks?
Yeah, those are hawks.
Okay, gotcha. In Oxford, Massachusetts. All right, got it. Hawk cams, folks. Hawk cam above a Little League field. Short porch on left, so to speak. All righty, now let's bring in our Rev Chief White House correspondent, Brian Glenn, who's in Cobb County, Georgia, for Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene's Tax Day Town Hall happening this evening in about an hour and 19 minutes or so. Brian, thanks for being here. So Congresswoman Greene is off doing some speaking in different areas. But tell us what you're expecting tonight. Specifically, we're hearing there's going to be a lot of protests.
Well, yeah, that's kind of what they've done the last couple of months as Republicans hold these town halls around the country. Democrats usually rally together, go to these town halls and try to essentially crash them. But I don't anticipate that tonight for several reasons. Not only is this district heavily red and very supported with Marjorie Taylor Greene, but also we have a bunch of security. I mean, a ton of security here. They are making people prove by a valid driver's license that they actually live in the district. So if they live outside the district, they're not let in. Even if you're a supporter of Marjorie, you're not allowed in this town hall. But nevertheless, I'm sure a few will sneak in here. and try to make their voices be heard, as they have the right to do, but then they also have the right to be escorted out by one of our finest here in Ackworth, Georgia. It does kick off 6 o'clock tonight. She's been doing around the district all day, meeting with mayors and city officials in this district, and just really kind of getting back to what I guess the representatives should do when they go back home and not in Congress, is go talk to the people on the ground. But tonight, they're going to talk to about 300 people in this room. Right now, here's a little side note. We've had more than 50 media requests for this event. So we've got everything from CNN, C-SPAN, Fox, all the Atlanta media is here. But Real America's Voice will be where you can watch this tonight. Stay tuned to our social media for the link to watch this town hall.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Now, we love Marjorie Taylor Greene. She's a firebrand, but what that does, it also makes the left crazy. And like you point out, First Amendment, you have a right to protest. That's what we embrace, the right to protest. Just do it legally, do it responsibly, and do it without violence. So those folks are supposed to be in some sort of holding pen outside of the venue, right?
That's correct. There is a lot across the street. They anticipate about 400 of these protesters based upon the analytics that they've gathered from some of the chat rooms, I think, that people are talking about. Whether or not that happens, we don't know. But I know one thing. We'll have about 300 people in this room, all asking questions. And she's going to kick this thing off. Here's a little sneak preview on here. This thing will kick off with a Barack Obama video that I think will set the tone for what they're going to hear tonight in Ackworth.
Tax day, I'm thinking maybe a little explanation on tariffs, but you just threw a loophole, a little, I don't know, curveball, like a low outside slider, which I could never hit in baseball. That's why I'm not playing anymore. Barack
I can't either.
Obama. Illegal immigration. I can't even place what in the world. Why are we even talking about the guy who almost took the country down?
I know. I don't know. I guess it's to fire up the crowd here, in case maybe there might be a few people in here that'll clap with it, but imagine there'll be a lot of boos in here. And this feels like a Trump rally, to be honest with you, with the security outside. The amount of security is incredible around this facility. The media, just the pageantry, I guess, the video screens. There's one right behind me right there that they'll be playing some of the videos on and pulling up some
You showed us
slides.
in the break. You showed us the room. Can you spin that camera around again? So it's a pretty.
Yeah,
it's a good sized room
around here.
And I noticed when you showed me earlier, there were some names up on the front 2 rows. Who are those? Who are the dignitaries?
Yeah, these are local dignitaries. I don't know if anybody statewide. Obviously, I don't think let me make sure to get the autofocus in here. The governor.
That's a good size room.
Here, but
that's a really nice size room. And I'm guessing
and she's gonna
they're gonna plant some of the protests in there. They're gonna fake it, and, with the fake IDs and whatnot. Go ahead.
Well, what's interesting about this, when you look at some of these town halls that have failed miserably, it's because the Republicans in those districts, Eric, didn't necessarily have the strong support that she has. I mean, obviously, people are very passionate about their representatives. In this district, they are. Mm-hmm. I've seen districts in Texas, and I'm not going to name any names, but they have these milquetoast, lame duck town halls where they draw few supporters, and most of us dominated by Democrats that infiltrate their way into these town halls, and they just ruin it. And that's why they end up on clips on CNN later. I would imagine you'll see clips on CNN later tonight, but you'll also see a massive room with supporters verbalizing their opposition to whoever chooses to come in here and disrupt this town hall. So it should be very interesting.
It's going to be very interesting, especially with the cops. I'm assuming the cops love Marjorie Taylor Greene, everything she's about, everything
they do.
You're about. And you're always at the forefront of the breaking news, political breaking news. Really good to have your insight and your perspective. Especially, take a look at this, folks. Can we roll that little clip, the preview clip? Just roll it.
Franklin here at the White House. What a week it has been.
We have a couple of senators here I just don't particularly like them, so I won't introduce.
The LA Dodgers.
Let's go! Mr. President, we have a gift for you as well.
Race car drivers.
And now he's going to do it back to back.
So what the hell are you doing? What are you eating?
to world leaders.
Benjamin Netanyahu.
We will eliminate the trade deficit with the United States.
To press briefing. Stand over here in the corner.
In the corner.
This is the corner. It's
a good corner.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good to see you all.
We're not even 100 days in yet.
It's
I
crazy.
mean, it's just incredible.
To be here covering it is a blessing of a lifetime.
I didn't show up for work in a hoodie today.
Not a bad day. Sunday in America.
Sunday in America with Brian Glenn. Sundays at 7 p.m. on Real America's Voice.
Now, Rav is real smart. You're at the forefront of the tip of the spear. You're getting it done. I would have just thrown the Zelensky comment about his suit in that promo if I were that. But maybe week 2 we could add that for you because that was an amazing moment.
I have a funny story. I have a funny story about that. If we have about 2 minutes, do we have enough in this thing? I have not told this story on the air. Yeah. Do we have time? Okay. So I got a call yesterday from the Trump team, and they said, hey, we'd like to invite you in the Oval Office for the El Salvadorian president in there. We just want to have you an opportunity to ask some questions. I said, absolutely. Then I realized that I was not wearing a jacket because I woke up in the morning, I got dressed, I threw my winter coat over just my shirt and tie, forgot to put the suit coat on. Well, there was no way in the world I was going to walk in that Oval Office without a jacket. Not only would it be political suicide for me, I would get murdered online. All the stories about how hypocritical I was to call Zelensky out, but yet I walked in the Oval Office without a jacket. So what I did, between a Lime bike, an Uber, and my shoes were running down the street, I ran home, got the jacket, I ran back to the White House, only to miss the door closing in the Oval Office by about 5 minutes. But I was not going to disrespect the office of the presidency and not walk in there without a suit jacket.
Good for you. Good call on that. And as your agent who's going to book you on suit, like Warehouse for Men commercials going forward, I'll take my 10%. I'm glad you didn't because that would have blown our
you can have it. I'll give you 15 because we're friends. I'll give you 15%.
All right, I'll take 10. I'll tithe all of it. Whatever. Anyway, Brian, really good having you. Really good working with you. And congratulations.
Thank you,
good luck on the Sunday show. Appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, folks. We'll be back in 2.5 minutes. Now, this is a beautiful place. This is a wonderful, beautiful place of this great American country. Sedona, Arizona, one of the most spiritual places. And I'm not a spiritual guy, but you get there and something happens to you. It's so wonderful, beautiful, quiet, serene, amazing. The weather's perfect all the time. Sedona, Arizona, folks. My favorite part of the day, folks. My most favorite part of the day, I learned something. Bringing Steve Bannon, the one only Stephen K. We missed you, brother. We missed you a couple of days. Jack's great, but I got our Bannon back. Where you been?
I've been, yesterday I was en route to give a speech to the great Greenville, South Carolina GOP, which had about 1,200 people there last night for their convention, to elect delegates to the state convention in May. And these are fire breathers, precinct strategy. So it was fantastic. Great folks.
Great conservative folks. Great Bannon lovers as well. Chris Van Hollen. So there's this whole back and forth about the guy that they're calling the Maryland man, Steve. You know, the El Salvadoran national who came over here, became an MS-13 member, or became one and came here and has done things accused of possibly human trafficking, maybe drug trafficking, broke the law getting here. We sent him back, and now the left loves this guy for some reason, including a Democrat from the state of Maryland. Listen.
I saw the comments of President Bukele, and I look forward to meeting with him. I've requested to meet with him. I reached out to the ambassador here to ask to meet while he's here. But I've also made clear if we can't meet here, I do intend to go to El Salvador to discuss the release of this individual who is illegally detained, a Maryland man who's the father of 3 in a notorious prison in El Salvador. And I believe the president of El Salvador will recognize why it's important to allow him to return to the United States.
That framing of the Maryland man, Steve, is about as often discussing as political as you could possibly get.
Well, I think, look, let him go down this road. I think president's pretty pretty adamant about this. We're going to have Margot Cleveland from the Federalist on to talk about what they're teeing up, as you see, Eric, a constitutional crisis. This is Weissman and the crowd at MSNBC and the New York Times. So Margot Cleveland's going to be here from the Federalist. We also got the great Natalie Winters. Eric is talking about a judge that's blocking President Trump from deporting 400,000 illegals that are here, about his activity on working on Democratic Party campaigns. So look, the Democratic Party is choosing this narrative, is going to go down this path. If that's what they want to do, let them go. I think it's an 80-20 issue, but hey, have at it.
Have at it. Continue. Yeah, let them. And I watched Caitlin Collins walk CNN into the ambush in the Oval Office yesterday. It was a beautiful sight. Couldn't believe she went at it 2 and 3 times and got smoked. She got leg swept and, one of the atomic elbows.
Hold it. So Bolling. Hold it, Bolling. What was the worst trap? Was the one Caitlin Collins walked into, or was the one Gretchen Whitmer walked into?
I don't
What's
know.
Been the worst trap?
The picture,
Oval Office trap.
Yeah, with the picture of her hiding behind the binders, it was hilarious. And she couldn't. I think Caitlin Collins smoked CNN. I mean, she just laid him on a platter for Trump and Bukele to hit the ball over the left field fence. In fact, I was on a podcast saying, this is what I'm getting to. I spent 2.5 hours. Patrick Bet-David does a massively popular podcast, and I was on it with, he tends to have opposing sides, and Chris Cuomo was the opposing side. And, over 2.5 hours, I was talking about you a lot, Steve, and talking about MAGA and, us being, you being the godfather of it, and me being there from the beginning, OG MAGA. And by the end, he was almost sounding MAGA to me. So watch what I did at the end of this 2.5 hours.
Cuomo was something.
Oh, I brought a t-shirt.
Notice how he waited. At the end of the podcast. Steve Bannon. What does it say? Steve Bannon is my spirit animal.
He's coming around. You're on your way. I'll tell you what. This is a trade up from. I took my family on safari, and everybody picked a spirit animal. Yeah. And there's this stupid little antelope called a dick. And I let my kids name my spirit animal, and they said, "You're the dick."
That's so freaking funny.
A dick.
D-I-K.
Dick.
You're serious.
Yeah, that was a rough day. So this is a big step up.
Yeah, it's probably not the first time or last time he's been called a dick. Sorry. I digress.
Wow, that's one of the biggest podcasts around.
It is, and we did 2.5 hours on tariffs, and I've talked about Lutnick, and I'm not a fan, and I'm understanding you're not a fan, and I do. I hope America somehow, this is a great idea that I'm not seeing, and it's all going to come together. But listen, you have a lot of fans there, and everyone really appreciates what you brought to the table, Steve.
Well, 2.5 hours. You were 2.5 hours with going mano a mano against Chris Cuomo.
Yeah, but there was Patrick, he hosts, it's his podcast, and there were 2 other guys, Vinny and Tom, who get involved. But it was mostly us having banter, and I'm telling you, Cuomo is sounding more and more like. I wouldn't call him MAGA. I would call him right of center. But I think clearly, I think he has to do that.
Chris Cuomo, right of center. That has nothing to do with the ratings boost over at News Nation, right? That's totally unrelated to his new show and driving traffic over there.
Yeah,
totally unrelated.
Yeah, what a coincidence! What's a coincidence, right? Yeah. All right, I'll let you go. Take over. You got a big show. Appreciate it, and good to have you back. Spirit animal, friend of mine.
Eric Bolling, always great to do the handoff every day. Highlight of my day. So thank you so much. Appreciate you, brother.